Hello to you. I do hope you're well. I'm Ben Wardle with my 4 top tips for securing a grade 9 in GCSE religious studies. So these are my 4 top tips for maximising your chances of securing that grade 9 in your RE exam this summer. And I'm going to give you them as like a succinct quick rundown first of all, and then we will unpack them, explore them, and look about, excuse me, I can't speak today, look at how we can implement these tips in our revision routines as we approach the summer exams. So number 1 is going to be to plan using the specification. Number 2 is going to be to mind map key content. Number 3 is going to be to practice past paper questions. And then number 4 is going to be to teach someone else the content. So we're going to plan, mind map, practice questions, and teach someone the content. So let's break them down. Also, can we just take a moment to appreciate this pineapple themed notebook? Well, I think it's pineapple themed anyway. Honestly, I found this the other day. I must have had this for about 4 years. I don't know where it's from. I want to say ASOS, but yes, just a little pineapple themed notebook, as you do. Anyway, we digress. One of my top tips for revision in general is to be focused. So let's focus, shall we? Number 1, my top tip number 1 for you guys is to plan your revision using the specification. This is so important. So the specification is basically a document produced by the exam board which states very simply and very clearly everything on the course. So it states every topic on the course, and it breaks it down per paper. So the exam board produced this document, it's on their website, and it tells you paper 1, and it tells you what's on paper 1, paper 2, and it tells you everything that's on paper 2. The specification, guys, is so important. It's mainly used by teachers in terms of planning their lessons and what have you, but it is so important for us as students. So the first thing I want you to do is to pause this video, go on your exam board's website and print off the specification for your course. So you might be with AQA, for example. So go on the AQA website, find the religious studies section, find your course and print off the specification for both of your papers. So for paper 1, based on the religions that you're studying, and then paper 2, based on the themes that you've selected. It is so important you get them printed off right this second. So from this moment onwards, you have got the specification in front of you every time you go to revise RE, and actually any subject. I really do recommend printing that specification off for every subject you are studying. And the reason why is because it gives us really clearly a guide to everything we need to know, and that is so helpful when it comes to our revision, because it means we can take a step back and we can see right in front of us everything we need to know before we walk into the exam room. So we can see the topics. We know exactly what we need to know. And I know that sounds really obvious, but I think with revision, it is so important to keep things simple. So don't start going through the textbook thinking, oh my gosh, there's so much I need to remember. How am I going to remember all of this? Take that step back, take a look at your specification and say, right, this is what I need to know before the exam. And this is very powerful. Firstly, because it allows us to then plan our revision. So you can go down the specification and say, right, on this day I'm going to revise this. On this day I'm going to revise this. So you can actually plan your revision in terms of the practicalities. But then also, secondly, and this is really important, it allows you to make what I call synoptic links. And a synoptic link is basically when you're making a link across the course. You're making a link between topics. And when it comes to GCSE RE, there are so many synoptic links, you know, it is ridiculous, to be honest. And it is such a good thing because there are so many connections between the different topics that we study. So for example, take creation, which is on the AQA paper 1. And for paper 1, we have to know those Christian beliefs about creation. And then on paper 2 for theme B, which is religion and life, we have to study the origins of the universe, which of course is again all about creation, the Christian beliefs about creation from Genesis, and then the Big Bang Theory and the different views about them both. So on paper 1 and paper 2, we are studying the same topic. And what you can then do when you've got the specification in front of you is see that with your own eyes. And you might literally get a red pen and make a note of it and make a line, draw an arrow. Do you know what I mean? So that you can see in front of you that things you've learned for paper 1 can be applied on paper 2. And that really helps you in terms of effectively revising, because when you're revising for paper 1, you then remember, oh yes, and I can also use this quote when I'm answering a theme B question on the origin of the universe. So it's really, really helpful, you know, in terms of our revision and then in terms of actually doing well in the exam, to print off the specification and to look at it and to say, right, this is everything I need to know. I need to know this for paper 1. I need to know this for paper 2. And then, and this is one of the most important things you can do, guys, you can start to think, right, what are the key quotes that I can use for multiple topics? And as you know, when it comes to getting our marks in RE, we need evidence, don't we? We need to be referring to the Bible, the Quran, the Hadiths. We need to be referring to our sources of wisdom and authority. And so when you've got the specification in front of you, you can see, right, I could use this quote for this topic, and this topic. So you know that is a transferable quote, and this is so important that you're able to see everything in front of you and say, right, I could use this quote to talk about stewardship here. I could use this quote to talk about peace and conflict here. And then you will start to realise, and this is really helpful, that you can actually rely on a bank of around 20 quotes for your entire GCSE RE. So just take that step back. This is step 1, to take a step back, print off the specification, look through everything you need to know, look at links between the different papers and the different topics, and look at the key quotes that you can use for multiple topics. And that is, as I say, step 1 for securing that grade 9. Really important that we take that step back and we establish at the outset what it is we actually need to know. Don't go off revising things that your teacher might have mentioned that aren't actually on the exam. If it's not on that specification, it's not going to be on the examination. It's as simple as that. So anyway, let's move on to step number 2, shall we? Which is to mind map. Now, a mind map, in my opinion, is the best way to take notes in a really visual, high impact way. I absolutely love to get that blank sheet of A4, write the topic in the middle, and then draw off my arrows and write down all that key information. When it comes to doing a mind map for GCSE RE, I quite like to have one colour for all my key content. I then quite like to pick another colour or even get a highlighter. Where are my highlighters? Here we are. Get a highlighter and then highlight the key quotes, so that when I look at that mind map, I can instantly see my key quote or quotes for the topic. You might also like to get another colour perhaps for your evaluation points, so you can see really clearly on your mind map, you know, the key information that you need to know. Now, you might do your mind maps at what we would call, you know, a very small level. So you might do them for each individual topic. So for example, I might do origins of the universe and then mind map that with my key quotes and my key knowledge. Or you might also decide to mind map an entire theme in one go. So I might just write in the middle of my page theme B and then mind map theme B. The idea behind this is that you are taking effective notes about the topics. So you are not just reading from that textbook. That is not what we want to be doing. You are taking that information and you are transferring it onto another piece of paper in this case. You might, I also did this actually when I was doing my A-levels, you might do it on a Word document. I found that quite enjoyable. I know, I need to get a life, but here we are. I did get the A star. I found that really enjoyable to get a Word document, have it in landscape mode, write the topic in the middle, and then I'd get, you know, little quote boxes for my quotes. I'd get little pictures off Google Images of, you know, Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, for example, and I would create a A4 landscape mind map for that topic that I then had as a Word document that I could print off, put in a folder or stick on the wall. But the key point here is that you are taking notes. You are not just reading, you are not just highlighting, you are actively doing something, you know, about it. Like me then realising that my hair looks an absolute state. I did something about it. I tried to improve it, although that didn't help, to be honest. I think we need hairspray. Anyway, the point is you need to do something with that information. And for me, I think the best way is the mind map because it forces you to be really concise. It's a great visual to look at the night before the exam. Another tip I would give you at this stage as well is when you're mind mapping, try to use the language of the questions. Okay, so for example, we know on paper one we're going to be asked about influences, we might be asked about the importance. So I would make sure on my paper one mind maps I've got a little section where I'm saying the importance of this thing is this, and a little section where I'm saying the influence of this thing is this. So just make sure the content you're putting on your mind map is going to be relevant to the exam, which brings me on to my third top tip, which is to try practice paper questions or try past paper questions. In short, you need to practice answering the exam questions. I cannot emphasize this to you enough. It is no good just knowing the knowledge. It is not going to help you in the exam room because what matters is how you apply it. Your knowledge is only going to be valuable if it is applied correctly in that exam room. And the way we guarantee we will apply that knowledge correctly and get those marks in the exam is by practicing exam style questions. So we need to take all of that knowledge we've put onto our mind map and we then need to put it onto the past paper questions booklet. We need to actually apply it to those exam style questions. In my opinion, you can never do too many past paper questions because the habit that you get into is so beneficial and it really does help you secure that grade 9. You know, the more practice questions you do, you get used to the exam styles, so you get used to the language they use, you will get very familiar with the way they structure their questions, and you will get, as a result, much better at answering the questions. So I really advise you to again go back to the AQA website, speak to your teacher maybe, or try the practice questions that I have on my videos, and really spend time every day doing a few questions. Now listen, that could just be 5 minutes every day doing a 4 marker or a 5 marker, and then sometimes you spice it up and say I'm going to spend 15 minutes doing a 12 marker. It doesn't have to be that you're answering 5 hours of questions a day, of course not, but just get into the habit of applying your knowledge to past paper questions. Honestly, I cannot tell you how important this is. You know, you need to be trying those questions. You need to be looking for the command words that they regularly use. You know, you will see a lot of patterns. The more questions you do, the more patterns you will notice. You'll see they use the same words, the questions take on the same structures, and the more you do them, the more familiar they will become. Again, in terms of my A-level revision, my poor philosophy teacher, you know, she was going to get a restraining order against me by the end of my second year of A-levels because I was turning up at her door on a daily basis with new questions for her to answer. And again, I really believe that led me to the A-star because I was getting into the habit of taking the knowledge and putting it into the format the exam board wanted it in. I was getting used to the style of questions that they asked, and I was getting used to the time constraints, for example, within which you have to write your answers. So yeah, practice those exam questions. Now I must say here, you don't necessarily need to answer the full question every time. You might just want to get the past paper questions and then bullet point what you would write, yeah? So if you want to try, for example, a question on explain 2 ways in which the Trinity influences Christians, you could then literally just bullet point a few ideas. So you don't always have to write out your full answer. For example, with a 12-mark question, you might literally just want to draw a table, agree, disagree, and then bullet point the things that you would write down. But as long as you get into the habit of, as I say, reading the exam style questions, looking for those command words, and looking at how you apply your knowledge to exam style questions, you're going to reap the rewards. One other thing I would say is make sure you're then also looking at the exam mark schemes. So don't just print off the past papers, but also print off the mark schemes or look at the mark schemes as well. So you can see what the exam board are looking for. So make sure you always look at your mark schemes as well, because looking at mark schemes helps you, again, to expand your knowledge and consolidate your knowledge. So get those practice questions and get answering them, and get those mark schemes, you know, and then self-assess your work, you know, fill in the gaps maybe in a different pen. Use the mark schemes from past papers to maximize your chance of getting marks in your paper. There's a little soundbite for you that I've just come up with off the top of my head. And finally, last but not least, guys, is to teach somebody what you know. This is my golden rule. This is my golden tip. Until you have taught someone the content, you do not know it. I strongly, strongly believe this. You know, I started YouTube many, many years ago simply because when I was trying to revise, I came up with the idea. Well, I didn't come up with it. Do you know what I mean? I don't think I'm the Albert Einstein of teaching on YouTube, but I came up with the idea that I would film a video of me teaching whatever I was learning. I think it was the book Journey's End that we were studying in English. And I thought, you know what, instead of just reading through the book, I'm going to have a go at teaching it. Now, I didn't film it thinking I'm then going to put it on YouTube and people are going to watch it. It was literally my revision technique to sit down and to film this video. I cannot tell you how helpful that was for me. And then ever since filming that first video, my go-to for ensuring I know a topic has been to film videos. And now, of course, I'm very fortunate. I'm able to share them on YouTube, and I really am thankful for your feedback for them and for the fact that you are watching them. So thank you very much. But, you know, I'm not saying you need to start a YouTube channel and start creating content on YouTube. But what I am saying is do something with the knowledge you have. Don't just read it. Don't just mind map it. You need to teach it. When you talk about it, when you teach it, you honestly gain the most amazing understanding of it. And it's so powerful and it is so helpful for securing that grade 9. Now, I'm not saying as well you have to teach it in a traditional sense. It could literally just be sitting down with your mum and dad or whoever's at home at dinner and talking to them about it and saying, do you know what Augustine said about sin? Do you know what Pope Francis thinks about climate change? That's all it takes, but it's so powerful. So make sure you are teaching, is what I'm trying to say, the content that you are revising. Make sure you are telling somebody, you are teaching them the content. You might also want to create your own worksheets, okay? So instead of just filling in worksheets that you've got from a revision guide or that, you know, a teacher's given you, actually create your own. And the reason I say this is because it gets you thinking like a teacher. It gets you thinking like an examiner. And again, that is so helpful for getting that grade 9. So make sure that you create your own worksheets, create your own teaching resources, you know, that you can then fill in yourself the night before the exam, for example. So create a little revision booklet. Don't just copy out the textbook, but actually create resources for yourself. So whether that is you teaching it on, you know, get your phone out, create a little TikTok video that you can just put on private, that you can then watch the night before the exam, you know, or teach your mum, teach your dad, teach somebody, or create resources. The most important thing, what I'm trying to say here, is create something with the content. Do not just read it. I would say do not just practice applying it in the exam. Practice teaching it, yeah? Don't just practice teaching the content and the knowledge, but also teach how to answer the exam questions. So teach somebody how you answer a 5-mark question. Teach them how you would plan a 12-mark answer. When you are active in this way, I really cannot emphasize this to you enough. You honestly gain the best understanding of the content yourself. It really helps you to remember it, and it should hopefully then give you confidence going into the exam room and then getting that grade 9 that we are aspiring towards. So yes, teach somebody, write your own exam style questions, teach the topics, whether that's to your mum or your dad or in a TikTok video. Make worksheets, for example, a keywords crossword I wrote down here. And yeah, try to think like a teacher. Try to think like the examiner and really secure your knowledge and understanding, you know. The last thing that I would say then, so they are my 4 tips: to plan using the spec, to mind map key information, to do practice questions, and to then teach someone the knowledge. So important to teach somebody. The last thing I would say is that for a grade 9, we need to go above and beyond. We do. We need to go above and beyond. There's no other way to put it, you know. We have to really aspire for the best. That's what a grade 9 is rewarding after all. So try and do these things. A bonus tip I want to give you then, if you do want to go for that grade 9, is try to go beyond the specification. So try to think, right, this is what I need to know. What can I add that's going to be the little icing on the cake to show the examiner I am a grade 9 candidate? Now, that might be, for example, finding a quote that not many people know. Everybody's going to be using love thy neighbour. Let's be real. Now, do you know what? It's a great idea. It works, doesn't it? It gets you the marks in RE. But if you want that grade 9, my recommendation to you would just be think, how am I going to add that icing on the cake? Yeah. Do I know a quote that very few other people know? Is there, is there a scholar I could use rather than just saying some Christians believe? Could you actually refer to St. Augustine himself? Could you refer to Aquinas himself, for example? Yeah. So just be thinking, right, what can give me the edge? What can give me the icing on the cake? But I also do believe that if you plan, mind map, practice past questions, and then teach the topics, you are well on your way to securing that grade 9. Now, it goes without saying, I must end with this, please be kind to yourself throughout the whole revision process, the whole examination season. You must be kind to yourself, keep everything in perspective. As long as you are trying your best, then you should be proud of yourself. You must be kind to yourself. And you know what? Whatever results you do end up getting, do not worry. You are going to be a success. You are going to succeed in life, irrespective of your exam results. So, try and, be your best and do your best, but do not be hard on yourself. You have got an entire lifetime of success ahead of you. And, the final thing I would say is be sustainable in your studies. Yeah, really do schedule in that time for breaks. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. And as I say, be kind to yourself. And, very best of luck to you. Please let me know if you've got any tips you'd add down below. And I can't even speak at this stage. I need some green tea. 22 minutes. Guys, I was planning for this video to be about 5 minutes. Never mind, here we are. Cheers. What was I going to say? And, do join me here on the YouTube channel for revision videos every week. So yeah, do join me here on YouTube and let's aspire for that grade 9. But you know what? Don't worry if it doesn't work out, because you've still got an entire lifetime of success ahead. The main thing from my point of view is that you enjoy it, you do your best, and you just keep on growing and developing as an individual. Have a great day, and I will see you here on the channel very soon. Bye bye.